there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. So I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and give my opinion on Wildsville Drain and specifically the Enchanted Tales, which everyone has lost their mind about. We've had content creators and YouTubers and people in this market that have hailed this as the savior of Magic the Gathering, that finally people have something to get excited about and this will fix everything for all the problems we're having for kind of a lull, kind of boring market. And I think that this is part of the problem. It is just more of this FOMOing and more of the one-upping every set, and we're now, what are they going to do for Caverns of Ixalan? They're going to, or Lost Caverns of Ixalan. How are they going to one-up this set? How can they continue to push the FOMO creep, is what I like to call it, where you got to get these people to, oh, I bet can't miss out on this product because now it's got basically master sets worth of cards in this Enchanted Tales slot. So that is my warning about this precedent, is when you make everything super special, nothing becomes special, and people are going to get less and less excited, and they have to continue to push products. So what this set has really done with the Enchanted Tales is it made Commander Masters completely obsolete, because many of the cards that were printed in Commander Masters are now in cooler versions, WEEB versions. You can get super ultra special ones that people can chase because they are extremely rare in the kind of foil full art WEEB version of like Doubling Season or some of these other cards, these borderless anime ones. And were recently just in Commander Masters. So a lot of the value from Commander Masters becomes something that no one seems to care about anymore. How quickly things can change in Magic the Gathering. And what I love to compare right now is like even things that used to be super special have now got a new treatment. And I guess it's been years since this has happened, but you can see like Aggravated Assault was a super special masterpiece series, and they've already done it now in an Enchanted Tales slot. So Wizards of the Coast has just shown us they're just going to continue to print and print and print and print with these new specialty versions of everything to try to squeeze the last bit of juice out of everybody. Now this does lead to ultra cheap singles, which gives us an opportune time to possibly pick up singles. Now this is the elephant in the room and kind of the entire discussion for this video, is we are going to look like fools for not picking these cards up for this price, or I guess if we take the safe route and the market just collapses even more, then, and you know, everything goes to zero, then I guess this isn't the opportune time to pick stuff up. But that is really what I'm debating and debating and debating, because as I mentioned before, this Enchanted Tales is a master set worth of products. This would have been, if they would have released this back during when they released like Modern Masters 2015, this would have looked like a knock out of the park if they had a premium on these particular cards. As you can see, many of them have lost between 70 to 90% of their original value, but the cards that were contained in this list are some of the most played cards. If you don't believe me, just go over here and look at cards like, I wish they actually on EDH Rec would have a list of Enchanted Tales. They don't. I tried searching for them, but you can actually see cards like Land Tax. And 6% of all Commander decks use Land Tax. So this is a card that is highly sought after and included as basically a throw-in addition, because the Wildsville Drain is actually, the set itself does have enough value and does have enough perks for people playing Standard or picking up other cards like Beseech the Mirror for Commander to actually sell the set. So these are just even more added into the value. However, it doesn't really affect the prices of the TCG player price or the eBay price for booster boxes. Those are still struggling, comparatively speaking, if stores are looking to get like good margins out of the sealed product. So we're entering into like a weird phase where singles actually might be the route to go again, and where there are going to be less players in the sealed market that actually could lead to less singles going out on the market. So that is just the million-dollar question, is where does this market settle? Are we going to be fools for not buying in at this price, or is it just another straw to add to the camel's back that will eventually break? And that, I am nervous, beyond nervous of this market, because I do want to go all in, where these cards, these WEEB cards, chasing these WEEB cards have just pushed the price down of playables. And something that I've always liked about Magic the Gathering is where utility reigns supreme. This wasn't a game like Pokemon where only chase Charizards were worth money, where the most playable, it always makes me shake my head, of like 4 of copies of rares in Pokemon decks go for like 50 cents each because no one's collecting them. They're just being used in, tier decks and playable decks. However, Magic the Gathering, that has not been the case. There have always been a historical for years and years and years of decks that, like Commander, that utility eventually reigns supreme, and cards that see play end up going up in price if they have reasonable reprints or reasonable demand based upon the supply that's out there. So again, that is the $1,000,000 question with Enchanted Tales or sets in this whole era. We've seen Baldur's Gate cards start to go up in value, and I was, a year ago, if you would have told me, oh, maybe this would have been a good time at the low of Baldur's Gate to get into singles, I would have called you crazy. And it's just the weirdest market I've ever been a part of. So analyzing over the Enchanted Tales, there are some amazing goodies in here, but that is where I want to preach caution, and at the same time, like, geez, are we ever going to see a time period? And if Wizards of the Coast can somehow use some restraint, they can go away from this COVID era lockdown, free money, we just print, throw darts at the board, let's just reprint everything, throw darts to the board, whichever one sticks, we still make a profit margin on it. And they start to have the foresight that maybe we need to scale back on some of these things and let some breathing room in the market for a lot of these products to recoup in value. I mean, the only way that they are going to make products of yesteryears of like the new Capennas and even going back to even like War of the Spark now, what a boring set that is compared to something like this. I mean, look, boring things they had to buy Japanese packs to get the the specialty stuff in that one. Boring. Return to Ravnica Allegiance, all that, those nonsense pre-collectors products. What a snooze fest compared to what they're putting out now. So the only way to make those products attractive is to allow utility to start catching up for the cards that were put in them. So Wizards, I think, in my opinion, without having to look back at a bunch of their products from the last 10 years as just absolute dumpster fires, and I think that they can't do that. That's kind of the predicament they put themselves in, is they can't go back to the Return to Ravnica, War of the Spark, that kind of Ixalan era, and continue to watch box prices collapse and then be like, okay, this is something that people are going to want to spend money for the future. People have to think at least that they made a good purchase. And this is what I like to argue with kind of the normies, the plebs about this. I get so much comments on this channel, my Rogue Market channel, as well as my Gone Rogue Game channels, like, well, card pieces should be cheap. I shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg to play Commander or to play Standard or to play anything else. And the whole point I like to always beat home is that they're kidding themselves if they subconsciously or even unconsciously or even consciously don't value their own collection, because some of those people are the ones that get the most upset when they realize a card that they spent $50 for went down to nothing. They'll say they didn't care or whatnot, but the product is always going to have to reflect the value that's contained in the product if it's going to maintain its value long term. And that was the best thing about Magic the Gathering, was the long-term appreciation of older products due to utility and scarcity of people wanting to pick those up. So they had the perfect thing going, the perfect ecosystem going for Magic the Gathering, where there was nostalgia for people wanting to draft those sets. There was utility that was bringing up the just supply and demand. There were cards that were contained that hadn't been reprinted yet, so then it made products from like Dragon's Maze or Return to Ravnica look good. Like Shocks became valuable. That's when we started seeing Gatecrash and Return to Ravnica actually start to accrue value. That was a product that was dead, stagnant for many, many years because it was overprinted. That was really the heydays of Magic the Gathering. As far as new player growth, comparatively speaking to the products they put out, all of those sets, Theros, Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, they were overprinted because they didn't want to have another fiasco of a standard set being sold out during its standard life cycle. So it was a good decade before we saw growth in any of those. And the big catalyst before Gatecrash and Return to Ravnica was Pioneer then bringing new demand, and Commander taking off, bringing new demand for Shocklands, that then it was profitable again to start cracking Return to Ravnica boxes just for the Shocklands. So I think that is a great avenue for Wizards of the Coast to give those breathing room. And it took, I don't think we would have seen the boom of 2020 and 2022 if, I'm sorry I'm not like showing things on here, I should be clicking on random stuff here just to keep people entertained, but I don't think we would have seen the boom of the Magic era I would say, wore the spark forward. If they didn't have that breathing room, that was allowed to happen for a lot of that Theros era product to get kind of scooped up due to utility, due to nostalgia, due to just being old enough and attractive enough, comparatively speaking, to the latest products, that people would want to purchase that old product. I've stated this many times in videos before that Magic the Gathering's greatest competitor is not Pokemon, is not Flesh and Blood, is not One Piece, is not Lorcana. It's their own dead products on the shelves that are still competing with the new products. And so giving a breathing room is something that I think is going to be necessary. Now, back to Wildsville Drains, because this is what the kind of the heart of this video is going to be, is this is just an insanity of prices. And that's why I kind of get everyone else's opinion on what they are doing right now with Wildsville Drain. Because, as I mentioned, it's this stuff that is pushing the price down of everything else. The people chasing the $300 Ristic Study is leading to 10-cent impact tremors. And things like impact tremors are crazy. This was a $3 common. So you got to think of the amount of demand that a card like impact tremors has with a heavily printed set of Dragons of Tarkir. There were very few sets, except now in the days of overprinting, of like Wizard of the Coast just throwing out like way more supply than there will ever be enough demand out there, because they want to make that maximum amount of purchases possible. But this era was also super overprinted with Dragons of Tarkir. This was the height of competitive playing Magic. This was like the heydays, the glory days of draft booster boxes, of just having so much demand. This was probably, if you take Commander out of the equation, I know that Magic is a much better place as far as casual and Commander, but if you're looking at competitive numbers, at least people showing at FNMs and playing in Standard and Pioneer and going to Grand Prix, this was the heyday. This was shattering all the records for attendance, for pre-release, for all those things during Dragons of Tarkir through cons. I would say that the cons through Battle for Zendikar is one of the best, if not the best, times for organized play for Magic the Gathering. We've shifted into a different era where I think there are more players, because Magic has now become more of a household name in the kitchen table space, where people play it more like a board game, where it's just get together with friends and bust out Commander games. I think things like Post Malone and a lot of the celebrities that have got into it have really made it a household name for that way of playing Magic. However, we can't think that this time period didn't have so much supply, and the fact that a common from one of the most open sets of all time, being Dragons of Tarkir, could go up to whatever it even get up to. It looked like it got up to $5 at one point, and was actually even in the mystery booster boxes, and now it's been in a Commander deck. Then you would have to make the same assumption that a 40-cent, which is actually more like, let's put up an Tishi mid, and I found a bunch for 10 cents the other day. See if they still are going for. It looks like all the 10-cent ones have been picked up, unless I've had them as item price only here on the Tishi player. Yeah, looks like a bunch of them. Yep, 12 cents for these borderless impact tremors. So, I mean, you'd have to find a bunch of people to make shipping worth it at that point. But once you get up to like the direct shipping, yeah, I think that. There's the first one right here at 25 cents. That still seems pretty insane to be able to pick up impact tremors that, I don't know, an uncommon from Enchanted Tales probably is injecting as much supply as Dragons of Tarkir, but it didn't take that long for Dragons of Tarkir supply to actually be, well, actually it looks like it did. It took about a good 3 years before it did go up in value. But I don't know, this is what I'd like to see go back to Magic the Gathering, where they do have, I mean, this is what I've always debated with other people, with the more cards that they create. I know that creating new, better cards push out older cards that played a certain role, but I don't think, is it going to be possible for Wizard of the Coast to keep up with reprints just from the sheer amount of Magic cards that are in existence? I mean, and this is the only way they can really do that, is just start pushing cards into other slots for like the Enchanted Tales slots. But then again, that creates its own kind of issue that we're seeing with like Deadly Disputes and some of these other cards. Like we're seeing commons now in like the right now standard era get up to $2-3, because now there's slots where it used to be a common is now reserved for like an Enchanted Tales slots, and everything going to collector's boosters means there's just less commons in circulation with less people drafting, that then now leads to these newer age commons of being able to accrue value a lot quicker than they used to. So it's just a wild, wild world that we're living in as far as the Magic market is going. But if you do have the chance to really take a look at these cards in Enchanted Tales, This is insanity with Rest in Pieces at $1. As foretold for $1. And again, this is going to be the prices that is showing on the mid. This is not even the market that you can get out. So that is kind of the $1 million question: is what kind of faith do you have in Wizards of the Coast of reprinting again? The biggest issue with many of these, admittedly so, is they have been reprinted very. Shared Animosity just had a reprint, I believe, in a box set. Yeah, Explorers of Ixalan had a reprint. This is an expensive card. Oh, yep, Lord of the Rings. Yep, so it's had this kind of double reprinting. I guess that wasn't Explorers of Ixalan was quite a ways ago, but it went years and years and years and years and years without getting reprint, and now it's got a lot more supply injected within the last 3 years. I would say Explorers was around that time period too, 2019 I think, or 2018. But then Middle Earth Commander brought a bunch of Shared Animosity. But still, this card was hovering around. Looks like it was even going up until Lord of the Rings. So this looks like the Lord of the Rings reprint here. It was up to $8 from just this Commander 2020 version. And you can see this lovely trajectory when it was reprinted here in probably the Explorers of Ixalan box set. Came out. Not sure what ended up happening here. This is, okay, never mind. This is Commander 2020 Del. We're looking at it here. So the absolute supply of Commander 22 dries out here and then starts to accrue value. I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful card. And my whole strategy with this is just utilize EDH Rec. That's your biggest. So we can look at, what was I looking at? Shared Animosity. And you can kind of see the decks that it's in. And it's in actually a new one here with the 40% are using Shared Animosity with this new commander with the Toten Tense, the Swarm Piper. And then there's been some recent other commanders from Lord of the Rings and Commander 2023s that have actually used this. And typically, what I like to look for is yep, there we go, like a very popular card like Krenko Mob Boss or Locust God that are going to stick around for years and years to be popular commanders. If it's something that's slotted in those decks, this is just a quick buy. That is old Kevin speaking, though. New Kevin with this whole Magic 3.0 and this Project Booster Fund era of just reprint. Is there any wiggle room for Shared Animosity to ever see this going, this is a quadruple up before it gets reprinted? I'd like to hear everyone's comments and their input in the comment section below on where their strategy is going with this particular, set, because I never seen this. We did see this a little bit out of like Brothers War, but not quite this collapse of playables. Like Rest in Peace, that was a card that has hit double digits in price, and that when it was in its standard, it went down quite a bit, and then it went up and up and up, mainly due to the fact because it sees a lot of play in Pioneer and in Modern. But you see even things like Intruder Alarm. Think of how many cards can be imprinted with Intruder Alarm that they can create infinite combos. I mean, there's already so many that exist right now with Intruder Alarm, and just think how many can or will be printed that will just combo perfectly with Intruder Alarm. They don't like to create cards like this. This is another thing I like to look for when looking at cards as potential specs. But again, that going back, reiterate the question, the elephant in the room. Is it even possible for Wizards not to just reprint? Will they continue to outpace demand, which they've done with the release of Lord of the Rings and Commander Masters basically a month away from each other, and then this slapping on these Enchanted Tales that just was master set quality in here, which just just knock it out of the parks. I mean, even things down in here were like Mana Flares, Goblin Bombardments. These were cards that did see a lot of play. Or Oversold Cemetery, it was still seeing play in many decks. Phyrexian Unlife was a Modern staple. Utopia Sprawl, this one as well has had too many reprints in the last few. So Adventures of the Forgotten Realm, Masters 25. But again, look at the price that this was able to get just out of Adventures of the Forgotten Realms. Got up to all the way $5. Let's see where its kind of height got to. Yeah, I got up really to $10 right here. Or I guess that was just when it was released. So it got back up to about $7 before the. But yeah, so this is just unheard of. When was the last time this sucker was reprinted? Masters 25. What did it come out? What did it bottom out at its lowest price? It was $2.41. Got all the way up to $18 from an uncommon for Masters 25. You go back to old school Rogue deck builder videos, Two Eyes whining about the supply of Masters 25, and I was surprised at how well Magic was able to really absorb a lot of you got to get this whole spike though. Just everyone needs to get this out of their memory. This was COVID. COVID is not a reflection of what the market should have been. This was too much money that was injected all at once into the system. And if you look at basically any card, any staple, you're going to see a massive spike here during Strixhaven all the way to Modern or to Forgotten Realms. And this is very, very common throughout it. So I think that a baseline here is like this got up to about $6 from its low of $2, which is more reasonable. Possibly could have got more up to like this $9-10 if that's what the reality of what a regular market would have done. So we still have a lot of comeuppance to. The sins of the past are definitely are catching up to everyone. This era is going to need a long time to recoup from all the money that was injected into it. And the problem with it was then it led to precedences like Wizard of the Coast just going absolutely ham on trying to do reprints and like I said, the FOMO creeping. That's the best way to describe this, is just to continue to one up and try to see how much juice they can squeeze out of the lemon without collapsing the market. But Wizard of the Coast, I think, is going to have to, it's going to be a rude awakening. They're going to have to face the music eventually, that their reprint practices or this just the set release schedule and stuff is just not sustainable, or they need to cut back on numbers. And once they do, this sort of supply, if it ever does have the breathing room, I think is going to be just an unprecedented time. So I don't know. I don't know where I was going to go with this video, because it's going to be more of a rant video of like this. I don't want to see Wizard of the Coast going this route of, printing these Enchanted Tales. But then kind of my logical mind says, okay, it's done. It's water under the bridge. How, what's the best way to move forward? And to me, it just does seem like, buy at the bottom here, where, $2 waste knots. Just looking at these prices, $2 Leyline of the Voids. I know this card's been reprinted like crazy. I know it's even I think it's in a Challenger deck. But there's a lot of supply out there, but just nuts. But I don't know if Wizards can do it with like masterpieces. Like, this thing used to be so special. These things used to be like the cream of the crop. And now, here we have it. We have it where it goes down to being like a $2, $4 card for the ultra specialty version, but still is this sort of stuff. So I'm expecting prices to be low for quite some time for a lot of these enchanting tales. But I don't know. If I'm a gambling man, and I kind of am, I would not be sleeping on these sort of stuff. I think that it might be a good time to start getting in on some of these positions with the Enchanted Tales. And it seems like we're going into that sort of market where it's flip-flopped. The market is upside down, where we went for years where sealed product reigned supreme. The sealed product was just the best way to go. And with, too many cooks playing the sealed market and not that many people obviously playing the singles market, or now we have people mass box opening to hit these $3 cards that I think are terrible buys right now, because I think eventually they will go down once they, find the buyers that actually want them. I think these are the type of stuff that will start to creep back up, is the lower end Enchanted Tales that still do see a ton of play in EDH. So maybe this will make a good video for my Rogue Market channel, is to really give you my specs for Enchanted Tales, of which one I think are good pickups at the moment based upon the amount of play in the various commander decks, or modern or pioneer. Maybe I'll do a top 10 list. That'd make a pretty decent video for that. So head on over to the Rogue Market channel if you're interested in seeing a follow-up video for this. Probably will come out in the next few days. But I appreciate everyone sticking around for the Rogue Market. And eventually we'll get back to the brews on this channel. I've been having a lot of fun over at my Gone Rogue Games channel, just ranting away at the market. And, I feel like the guy, what's the dude's name that's playing his fiddle as he watches, Rome burn? Because I'm so married to this stupid game and this collectible, and it's just been so crazy watching just prices collapse. And again, it's like, even though this has been such another set that's just insanely popular, look at this. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with before I close this video is look at Wilds of Eldraine collector booster display. We are now down to distributor pricing. So even these WEEB cards, even chasing $300 cards, has not made a dent. And I actually don't know who's more to blame now. It definitely is just that Wizard of the Coast is has created too much supply. And I think too much supply eventually, and it was just such easy money for a long time. A lot of these guys need to be weeded out. I honestly, many of these probably are local game stores, but a lot of this stuff that's happening right now, this race to the bottom for sealed product, I think are people on their last dying breath that are trying to make their basement operations where they're flipping sealed product. They're still trying to make it work in a world that there's just too many of them that they're competing for that same dollar. And this is what happens. You have so many people where Wizards of the Coast hasn't done their due diligence for really enforcing where their product goes, where it leads just a bunch of flippers, and then flippers start to cannibalize themselves with the kind of the Dutch tuliping of products. So that'll be another thing that I think will eventually lead to the recovery of the market, is those types of entities getting cut out, where it has to go back to the traditional method of game stores being able to sell to locals and being able to then push their excess product online. But again, if it's a hot product, it won't have excess product. And if I think that Wilds will drain, if this set right now with kind of the popularity that it's had and the chase cards that it had, we wouldn't be seeing these sort of prices if this would have been like 3-4 years ago. During a different time period. But a lot of factors right now are just really going against the market with the collectibles. A, the overprinting. B, the amount of, like I said, too many people that have decided to try to make a career or a living out of trying to flip, and seeing how easy it is too. I mean, there's nothing special about being just another soulless box flipper on TCG Player. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of effort. Anyone can really do it. But eventually people will realize that it's probably easier to flip bath salts than it is to flip collector's boosters at this point and take the hefty fees and kind of the headache and stuff of going on with this really roller coaster of a market. So anyway, it'll be interesting in the next few years what ends up happening with the market, if we can get that breathing room. I highly hope that Wizards of the Coast will make the adult decision and just let the market relax, let it calm down, and hopefully we can have another few years of where we see what happened, like Return to Ravnica and Gatecrash and all that era Theros, where no one ever thought the sealed product would ever be able to recuperate. I actually used to mock the sealed market because I'd be like, man, I could speculate on Thoughtseize a lot easier than I could on Theros booster boxes, and call when Thoughtseize is going to go up easier than that. So I think we need to get to a healthy medium where both sealed product and singles again become collectible, become desirable, and we are on the right track. And this is a great time though to start getting into your game pieces. But I guess that's as I stated, the elephant in the room. The caution is Wizards going to make that call or not? Or are they going to continue to basically squeeze a juiceless lemon at this point, where there's really nothing left to get people excited about with how are they going to win up this? I really am questioning Ixalan, Lost Canons of Ixalan, to see what they're able to come up with, because how in the world can they I mean, Brothers War squeezed out all their artifacts. Martian Machines squeezed out all the legendary creatures. There's all the enchantments. I mean, what do they go for? Caverns of Ixalan that really has any sort of way to get people excited. And every time they give us that little dose of FOMO, people are becoming more resilient to it, and the wallet fatigue and the less excitement is going to continue to catch up. And I hope you enjoyed this video. For the Rogue Market, again, I'll try to do a follow-up video of kind of my picks that I think would be the best ones at these really dumpster prices for the Enchanted Tales in a future video. Thanks for watching.